Hey everybody, and so number 4. So we're over in Acts 14. As I said, Acts 13 we just skipped altogether. It's basically who's going to be each other's missionary companion and go out and teach. This is the part of that's carrying on from that continued revelation that Peter had about teaching the Gentiles. This is like, okay, now how are we actually going to do it? So that was him instigating this. Well, let's try missionary companionships. New concept to them. Not so new these days, kind of a thing that we just do, but that was a thing then that was like, oh, let's try this. Does it have to be 2? No, 1 can be fine, but 2 is good. When you get taught by 2 people, I don't know if you've ever been in a class or been taught by 2 people, then they teach off each other, and it works really well, especially when you have different learning styles and people want to hear different things and you're teaching from different opinions and different experiences that you've had. Something that someone else might say will resonate a whole lot more than something you might have said. So it's a pattern that works, and it's one of those things set forth from God that actually just does work. So chapter 14 though, more persecution spreading against the gospel. Paul heals a crippled man. Now we all know that when some healing goes on, people get super upset. How dare you heal somebody else and make their life better? And Paul is stoned, and you think, oh my gosh, Stephen got stoned and he died. Paul gets stoned, and obviously they didn't do as good a job, but he's out with Barnabas, a man called Barnabas, and they're out there together talking, but there's also some good apostles or disciples with them. And there's a whole thing in there about why he gets stoned and how it works and how he heals them, and it gets bad. But anyway, they chase after him and they stone him. But let's go to verse 19 and 20, because that's where we're going to focus this. It says, and there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. So stone him, don't like what he said or done, don't like what he's trying to preach, and let's get him out of here. So we stoned him, we convinced the people it was a good idea, that he was not worth having around, and we drew him out of the city, dumped him outside the city, good riddance kind of thing, supposing he was dead. Howbeit, as the disciples stood around him, he rose up and came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. So he carried on. And it's like, we all have moments where, if you remember, we were talking last week about being stoned with words, because not so much these days do you get actual rocks thrown at you, but it's more metaphorical rocks where people attack you either online or in person, and there's some nasty words slung about. I was just having a conversation with 2 friends today about just the vitriol hatred of words that is just getting slung at people these days, and the kindest, sweetest people who don't deserve it. And because they just happen to be there, they're just getting all this anger and just nastiness thrown at them, and it's not even their fault. It's just a situation where what this person expected didn't happen, and so they're going to take it out on this innocent bystander, because they're the ones saying to him, we're sorry, we can't do it that way, we'll need to do it this way or do it differently, and then it just all goes to custard real quick, and how nasty it can be. And it never really used to be like that before COVID. People were more polite, more patient, more, I don't know if you will, just enduring. But yeah, we're all on short sticks right now, all short straws. We're just the littlest thing will set us off, because life is really super hard. So we're just going to put more effort into that meditative, grounding, peaceful kind of way, so that when these things do come up, we don't have those reactions. But the thing I loved about this one really is that he wasn't there alone. Even though they supposed him to be dead, there was a bunch of disciples, friends, that stood around him until he rose up and carried on with Barnabas. So we all have moments when we're down like this, and we have good friends who stood around us, or we need to have good friends that stand around us. Go find that. If you've only got 1 or 2, then maybe get some more, as much as you can. Now, they don't have to be best buddies, but they have to care about you enough to stand around you and support you. So who can you stand around, circle, who can you stand around? Who can you circle around to help? Because if you want to bring this into your life, remember, you've got to give it out. If you want people to stand around and help you and lift you up, you've got to get out there and do the same thing for them, because that's what will come back to you. It's really interesting that they go on to teach, and again, they have huge success among the Gentiles in teaching them. But in 15, you see even more dissension arise. Just the whole thing about being not wanting people to talk. And this time, Paul's teaching with Silas, another disciple to go as a missionary companion. It's like remember these guys are more like 70s or bishops, if you will, that going with these prophets to go teach. And it just gets really, really ugly as well. And it continues to do this until literally they've managed to wipe out every part of it, and it dies off, and splits into many different factions of churches, because each of them know so much about it, but not the entire thing. And that's how we sort of ended up with so many different denominations today. They're all sort of broken off of some way of that original gospel. And so, like, when they say that they're Christian, yes, they are. Absolutely, they believe in Christ, but they don't have all of it there. And really, as a church, we want to add upon it. And a lot of people still will take that the wrong way, like we're trying to take away their religion. We're never trying to take away their religion. It's just adding on to it the rest of like what was in the scriptures here and what they had then. And some people take it kindly and some don't, and that's okay. But you really don't need to go about stoning people or hating on people, but mostly be that kind of person that will stand around and help someone else, who will circle around. You say circle the wagons because it's a safe place to be. If you're getting attacked, you want to be in the middle of that circle because it's a protection. And we all need friends like that, people like that. And again, they don't have to be besties, they don't have to have everything in common with you, but they need to be willing to stand there and be there with you until you're good enough to get going again. What else did I have in my notes? Despite persecution, so much hatred and violence thrown at church members, it's not a safe place or time to be called Christian. It's a privilege to be called that, but it's not really a safe time to be called that. Paul, being dauntless in preaching, gets stoned, yet although believed dead, is not. Rather, surrounded by disciples, he rises up with Barnabas and continues to go and preach, reaching many Gentiles. So how can we be dauntless despite persecution we may receive in our day? Be dauntless at this, right? Surround yourself with fellow disciples. Together we're stronger. Absolute truth. So have a little look at that. There's a lot of just story happening in that, but then there's like that really pivotal moment of you can continue to do this and you will find protection if you stick together. True. All right, hang around. We'll cover the last one. It's a good one. I'll see you there.